something that I really don't quite understand for myself. You see, there are documented historical facts, bedrock fact, unrefuted, 100% fact, absolute fact. One such story being the death of Lazarus, Jesus' brother, and the resurrection of Lazarus in front of the multitude. You see, there were many accounts of resurrection in the Bible, but those people were told to go away and speak of nothing of this, in that Jesus told them, don't tell anyone about this miracle. When Lazarus died, he not only died for a period of time that was very specific in rabbinic tradition, with that, within 3 days of somebody dying, the spirit would roam the physical body for a chance to be resuscitated. But on the 4th day, according to rabbinic tradition, they were dead. So there's a lot of real specific detail to why Lazarus died and why Jesus let Lazarus die. And all of the time frame and all of the details are really interesting. But what's mind-boggling to me is, why doesn't somebody as smart as Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, Jordan Peterson acknowledge these facts in history? Have Jamie pull this crap up like he does everything else. It's their ego. It's their ego. People understand the truth. They choose to, no, they want to believe something different. Flat earthers. You know, there are a group of people who just, they will not see the light because they choose to believe something else, no matter how much proof you give them. So the Bible is 100% fact. The death and resurrection of Lazarus as the first sign of Jonah, it's an amazing story. I'm going to read it to you. And this is written by Dr. Fruchtenbaum. Dr. Arnold Fruchtenbaum wrote this, Yeshua, Life of the Messiah. This is an incredible resource. So there's a lot of scripture in here. There's a lot of breakdown from Dr. Arnold Fruchtenbaum. There's a lot of history, rabbinic tradition. All of this stuff is 100% fact. And I'm going to help break some stuff down because, dude, this is thick. Before we study this miracle, a few introductory words are in order. This section contains the last of Yochanan's, which is John the Baptist. So when I say Yochanan, that's John the Baptist. 7 signs, the resurrection of Lazarus. It also contains the 5th of Yeshua, which is Jesus. 7 I am statements recorded by Yochanan. I am the resurrection and the life. And that's John chapter 11, verse 25. Lazarus was not the first person Yeshua raised from the dead. I said that. However, all the other resurrection accounts were covered in just a few verses and witnessed by only a few people who were then forbidden to tell anyone about what they had seen. In sharp contrast to all other reports, John the Baptist devoted 44 verses to the resurrection of Lazarus, going into great detail. Instead of being witnessed by only a few, this resurrection was witnessed by multitudes of people. So this is where we get bedrock fact, the bedrock historical fact, unrefuted. Okay? Furthermore, this resurrection differed from all others because it was one last sign Jesus promised to give Israel, the sign of Jonah, the sign of resurrection. Once Jesus gave this sign, the people would have to respond. I mean, there was a line drawn in the sand. Once this sign was performed, the people had to respond. Is this the Messiah, Jesus, or is he not? If one properly understands the role this resurrection played in Jesus' relationship to Israel as her Messiah, well, then it becomes very clear why things happened the way they did, meaning the people rejected him. So it makes sense how things transpired after this, but understood they were given a chance with this sign. Finally, one of the key differences between Pharisaic Judaism and Sadducean Judaism was the doctrine of the resurrection. The Sadducees denied that the resurrection was taught in the Torah. So the sign of resurrection, we're going to start with the death of Lazarus. The event began when Martha and Miriam sent a message, which are sisters, to Jesus that their brother Lazarus was fatally ill. And this is John chapter 11, verses 1 through 3. Their intention was to persuade the Messiah to come quickly before Lazarus died and heal him of his illness. Since it was only one day walk to the town of Bethany from where Yeshua was at that point, he could have arrived in plenty of time. So they gave word to Jesus saying, hey, dude, quickly come home. Boy Lazarus is dead, or boy Lazarus is sick. He's dying. We need your help. Come heal him. Please come heal your brother. Okay? Yeshua's initial response was to state that Lazarus' sickness had a divine purpose. So Jesus said, the Bible says, but when Yeshua heard it, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified thereby. John chapter 11, verse 4. Lazarus would die, not for the sake or the honor of death, but rather for the glory of God. This was followed by the declaration, now Yeshua loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus Lazarus. Because of his love for his family, one would expect that Jesus would depart for Bethany as soon as he heard about Lazarus' illness. But he did not. Why? Why did Jesus not even move? Instead, verse 6a begins with the words, when therefore. The word therefore logically connects the statement of verse 4 with verse 6. When therefore meaning for the very specific reason. He heard that he was sick. He abode at that time 2 days in the place he was. So John chapter 11, verse 6, he heard that he was sick. He abode at that time 2 days in the place where he was. Jesus deliberately waited for Lazarus to die so that God would be glorified with his resurrection, the first sign of Jonah. So Jesus laid up for 2 days. Yeah, I know he's sick. Playing Call of Duty, right? Not really, but you know what I mean. He just laid up, chilling, because he had a plan. All the others didn't quite understand it, but Jesus had a plan. Jesus was going to use his brother Lazarus' death to expose his divine nature once again and make people decide, is this God or not? After 2 days, Jesus declared he would again enter Judah. The disciples objected because they knew that many in that region desired to kill him. So Jesus had beef with people in that region. So after 2 days, Jesus said, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go check on my bro. This led to another example of John the Baptist something of the conflict of light and darkness. Yeshua answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If a man walk in the day, he stumbles not because he sees the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. You see, the disciples objected about Jesus wanting to go see his brother because they knew the people wanted to kill him. They're like, nah, dog, don't go. And Jesus says, are there not 12 hours in the day? If a man walk in the day, he stumbles not because he sees the light of his world. When God shines the light on your project, you don't fall. The project don't break. The project is in the light. It's successful. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. When you do things in the dark, when you do things related to the dark, when you do things that honor the dark, you stumble because the light is not in you. What he's trying to tell him is, dog, God's got me. I ain't tripping about none of this. I don't care if 50,000 people want to kill me. I got the light of God protecting my way. Let that sink in. Finally, Yeshua, told his disciples, Lazarus had died. This is John chapter 11 through 14. First indirectly and then plainly saying, Lazarus is dead. Even though no one had come to inform Jesus that Lazarus had finally succumbed to his illness, Jesus prophetically pronounced before anyone had given him word that his brother had died. This is all part of a divine plan. And again, it's just another prophetic thing that Jesus predicted that came true. That's a whole nother statistical point to proving the validity of the Bible. Another time. After waiting 2 days, Jesus knew that his friend had died. And he was ready to depart for Judea and Bethany. This troubled his disciples because they knew the Sanhedrin was looking for him. It confused them that Jesus did not go to Bethany while Lazarus was still alive, and yet Jesus insisted on going at the risk of Jesus' life after Lazarus had already died. Like, why are you going now, bruh? Like, it's heat. There's heavy heat on you. You didn't go to save him. Why are you going now after he's dead? They were not getting it, bro. Thomas, who was doubting Thomas, negative Thomas, responded, "Let us all go that we may die with him." So they're like, screw it. We might as well go with him and die with him. They understood what they were walking into, a death penalty. They understood they were walking into something far greater than they could really comprehend. And they weren't trusting in Jesus to deliver them through that. It's difficult to separate yourself from the power of God because we live so much in our own abilities. We live so much in our own ego of, if I can't handle this, who can? God can. These people, the disciples, had such a hard time understanding this. It's of no doubt. It's no wonder to me why so many people have a hard time believing in Jesus. So let me continue. Thomas responded, "Let us go that we may die with him." John chapter 11, verse 16. This is one of several times the Gospel of John portrays Thomas as having a negative outlook on life. So now let's talk about Jesus and Martha. This is John chapter 11, verses 17 through 27. Jesus approached Bethany, and when Martha heard he was coming, she went out to meet him before he arrived at the tomb. She scolded Yeshua for not taking action when they first called him. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother had not died." So she just, if Yeshua had come when they had first called him, he could have healed Lazarus. Had he come earlier, her brother would still be alive. She did, however, affirm faith in him. John chapter 11, verse 22. So she did recognize Jesus, your Lord, but why didn't you come sooner, brah? Jesus responded to her rebuke by saying, "Your brother shall rise again." And Martha assumed he spoke of the prophetic future and final resurrection at that last day, a fundamental belief in Judaism, meaning she already knew that he would rise again in Christ because he was a believer. She knew that. She didn't get what he was saying. So she understood, but she didn't understand. She clearly affirmed her faith in his messiahship, and she clearly recognized his power before death. But she did not recognize his power over death. That's a different thing. Jesus controlled the wind. Jesus controlled so many things, but she couldn't fathom this death part of it. This gave Yeshua the opportunity to make his fifth I am statement recorded by John the Baptist. "I am the resurrection and the life. He that believes on me, though he die, yet shall he live. And whosoever lives and believes on me shall never die." John chapter 11, verse 25 to 26. That is beautiful. Let that sink in. You have everlasting life with Jesus. Your physical body will die, but your soul, that 6 grams or whatever it is they can't quite figure out, evaporates from the body upon death. That's your soul that is taken to heaven, where you are judged. And if you're on Jesus' team, you're in. If you're not, you're out. It's period, end of story. There's no works that get you into heaven. Faith alone, Christ alone. So what he is saying is, though he die, yet shall he live. You are born again. You are risen in Christ when you die physically. And whosoever lives and believes on me shall never die. If you look at it this way, you got a super packed club. Gotta be here at this club. I mean, it is the end all, say all, best all club. If you're at this club, guaranteed to have a great life, great fortune and fame because of who you're gonna meet and see at this club. You have to be there. So everyone's in line, dude. You got Joe Rogan, you got Alex Jones, you got all these cats, right, in line. So you come walking up because you heard about this party, your friend Jesus throwing it. So you walk up to the front, the big bouncer dude, "Can't come in." And you say, "Hey man, I'm here with my friend Jesus." "Yeah, you got people here." Jesus come running up. Dad, they're with me. God open up the cord, the chain, and you go walking in, and Jesus ushers you into the party. Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, Jordan Peterson, all those really nice guys, really smart. They're sitting out. They're sitting outside. Can't come in. That's what he's trying to explain to these people. Once more, Martha responded by affirming her faith in his declaration, "Yeah, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, he that comes into the world." So this next part's awesome. Jesus and Miriam. And this is John chapter 11, verse 28 through 32. Martha informed her sister Miriam that Yeshua wanted to see her. When she came where Yeshua was, Miriam also scolded him for not taking action when he first called. Like her sister, she recognized his power before death, but not over death. "Bro, why didn't you come earlier?" Just beating him up with a shoe. So Jesus and Lazarus, this is where it is. Gotta pay attention. Don't let me lose you. Jesus observed the scene. And when he saw Miriam weeping, and the Jews also weeping who came with her, he groaned in the spirit. The Greek word for weeping, kolosium, means wailing. Right? Miriam and the other Jewish people were wailing. When Yochanan stated that Yeshua groaned in the spirit, the Greek literally reads, he was moved with indignation in the spirit. He was angry. That's how he reacted. So they're wailing and he's just, for two reasons. One, they lacked the faith. Two, he felt what sin and death brings to the physical body. He felt a kind of anger towards death, as we do. On one hand, he was angry at their unbelief, but in context, he was also angry at what sin has cost humanity, physical death, and death and impact on the human race and his friend Lazarus in particular. So for a moment, God, in human flesh, felt anger for loss of his friend, although he designed it and was prepared for it. I need you to let this sink in. He was 100% God and 100% man. He felt like we do. But he told the wind to stop. He was able to smooth the seas. He's able to bring people back to life. He was able to make the blind see again. He did stuff that we could never do. He prophesied things that came true that you and I could never do. But he felt the things that we felt because God wanted us to be able to relate to him. I mean, not be able to say, well, you don't know. Dude, he knows. In this spirit, this is crucial. In this spirit, Jesus arrived at the location of the tomb. This is followed by the shortest verse in most English Bible. So in this spirit, so Jesus is kind of saddened by the loss of his friend. He arrives at the tomb, kind of places his hand on the tomb, as we could kind of imagine walking up to the casket of your buddy, right? This is followed by the shortest verse in the English Bible. Jesus wept. Yeshua wept. So let's talk about that real quick. The Greek verb used here differs from the one used from the sisters wailing. So the sisters wailing is not this same word. It is the adakrasin, which comes from the root dekruo, meaning to shed tears. It refers to a silent weeping, unlike the wailing of others. So Jesus is sitting there, sad. He just lost a buddy. He felt that loss. He felt that without. And it made him shed a tear. He was sad. Jesus overheard the multitudes commenting on his love for Lazarus and asking, could not this man who opened the eyes of him that was blind have caused that this man also should not die? That's John chapter 11, verse 37. From their perspective, healing a man born blind was unique. It was messianic. No one could heal a man blind. No one could cure the leprosy. Those were divine miracles. Okay? From their perspective, healing a man born blind was unique. It was a messianic miracle. Using the Kal Gavchmer argument, they reasoned that Yeshua could also do a lesser miracle and heal Lazarus. Makes total sense. Pythagorean theorem. I mean, if this is this, why not that? So this led Yeshua to once again groan in himself. He was angry that they failed to understand the purpose of his mission. So he's listening to these people grumbling, man, can he do it? You know, they're talking. He's like, oh, these people just have no faith. He's groaning himself going, come on. It'd be like being in a car with a bunch of people whining and complaining that the tire's flat, being parked across from a discount tire. You see what I mean? Like, he's just like, dude, this is under control. So this is good. He was angry they failed to understand the purpose of his mission. Having arrived at the tomb, Yeshua commanded that the stone be rolled away. John 11:39. Martha, the one who was careful about these things, objected to Jesus' instruction because her brother had been dead for 4 days. And by this time, the body stinks, it says in the Bible. So Martha, Mary's like, no, dude, Jesus, no. For the sake of everybody, let's not do that. So she was like trying to tell him no. Within a Jewish frame of reference, the fact that Lazarus had been dead for 4 days is very significant. Back to the very beginning of what I was saying. Jesus deliberately waited for him to die and specifically waited to arrive on the 4th day. The reason for this relates to the common rabbinic teaching of that day that when a person died, their spirit hovered over the body for 3 days. And during those 3 days, there was a small possibility of resuscitation. At the end of the 3rd day, the spirit descended into Sheol, so resuscitation was impossible. Only by miracle of resurrection would the man live again. And resurrection, as we pointed out earlier, was believed to happen in the last days when Messiah comes. So these folks believed in resurrection, but only at that end time. Only God could really do this resurrection thing, right? Only by miracle of resurrection would the man live again. And resurrection, as we pointed out earlier, was believed to happen in the last days when Messiah comes. Because this was a sign Jesus promised to give the nation, he deliberately set the stage in such a way that he could not explain it away by claiming that Lazarus had been resuscitated. He didn't want to cure him on the 3rd day, 2nd day. He had to wait. He needed to make his point. There was no resuscitation and just kind of scoff it off. They would have to come to an understanding that the miracle supported Jesus' assertions of being the Messiah. Look, I'm the Messiah and I'm going to show you. That's what Jesus was saying. They would have to come to an understanding that the miracle supported Yeshua's assertions of being the Messiah. Lazarus had been dead for 1 day too many. Not 3, 4. He was dead. Dead is dead. In response to Martha's objection, Yeshua reminded her that if she believed, she would see the glory of God. At that point, the stone was rolled away. Miriam, do you believe? Yeah, brother, I believe. I rolled it away. Many commentators claim that Yeshua's love for these particular siblings motivated him to raise Lazarus, as this was true in part. However, discovering the textual reason for why things happen in Scripture is always wise. One can say, well, he loved him. Of course he did. No, there's reasons for this. Listen, pay attention. And Yeshua lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you heard me and knew that you hear me always. Sorry, let me say this again. Jesus is looking up to God the Father, praying to God the Father in front of the multitude, standing in front of Lazarus, dead. Stone rolled away. Lazarus dead, bound up. And Yeshua lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you heard me, and I knew that you hear me always. But because of the multitude that stands around, I said it, that they, meaning the multitude, may believe that you did send me. And that's John chapter 11, 41, 42. Clearly, this miracle was intended for the people. As Jesus promised, this was the one time Yeshua publicly presented a miracle to which they needed to respond. This was the end-all, say-all. You do this, we got a chance. You blow this, we're moving on to part B. And obviously we know how this went. Then Yeshua cried with a loud voice. So this is where it just happens. Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus was resurrected. He just sat up. He that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound with about with a napkin. All this is in history, you guys. 100% fact. Yeshua had to tell them to unbind him and let him go. A miracle within the miracle took place. Lazarus was bound hand, foot, and face. He was blinded, yet came out of the tomb into the open. with the resurrection of Lazarus, the first sign of Jonah was given. Boom! There's this drop like it was hot. Ah! Now people out of sight. Interesting. So here we go. The rejection of the first sign of Jonah. This is the rejection. This is what led to the cross, but that's a whole different thing. Let's just finish this up. So the sign of Jonah evoked two reactions. The first response was the correct one. Many individual Jews believed and accepted his messiahship. The second response was that others, still driven by their leadership complex, reported the occurrence to the Pharisees. So you had a couple of people go, "Dog, you are Lord, that was gangster. Man, that was awesome," right? Totally believe in calling his name. And then the other's like, "Huh." Bushwood? So you have to understand, these people freaked out, bro. So they had to go report it to the head chief, the headmaster. So the Pharisees in particular knew that this sign, the Pharisees in particular knew that this was the sign Yeshua promised to give to the nation. So they had to respond. The chief priests, who were Sadducees, therefore, and the Pharisees gathered a council, meaning the Sanhedrin, and in their deliberations, they did not deny that Yeshua had performed the miracle they had heard about. There were too many witnesses to deny it. Documented fact in history. All this went down. Choose to believe or not. That's fine. You put your head in the sand. Blah, 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 flat earth. Blah, 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 flat earth. Fine. Do what you're going to do. But this is real stuff. In their deliberations, they did not deny that Yeshua had performed the miracle they heard about. There were too many witnesses to deny it. However, they feared losing their position of privilege and their prominence. They were afraid that Yeshua would be declared the Messiah, and that the Romans would view this as an act of rebellion, invade the country, and destroy it. They were afraid of losing the grip of power they controlled because Jesus was more powerful than them. What do we do? We're gonna lose our stuff. They were so worried about losing their happy home because this guy Jesus was flipping all their tables, exposing all their crime for everyone to see, that they're basically full of crap. They feared losing their position of privilege and their prominence. Man, that sounds a lot like today. They were afraid that Jesus would be declared the Messiah and that the Romans would view this as an act of rebellion, invade the country, and destroy it. As a result, these members of the Sanhedrin would lose their place of status and privilege. This ain't gonna happen. Yo, this ain't gonna happen. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna kill the guy. That's what we're gonna do. That's what they do. Come on. This is like right out of Clinton playbook, bro. Caiaphas, the high priest and leader of the Sanhedrin, took the lead. Ye know nothing at all, nor do ye take account that it is expedient for you that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. So you got to understand what homeboy just said. It's important that one man dies so the whole nation don't. John the Baptist noted an ironic point. He's real sharp. Now this he said not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for the nation. And not for the nation only, but that he might also gather together into one the children of God that are scattered abroad. Caiaphas meant one thing, that they had to get rid of this man to save the nation from the Roman destruction. Fine. However, John the Baptist pointed out that, ironically, the high priest spoke the truth. Jesus would die on behalf of the nation. Because of his death, the nation would not be utterly destroyed, but will someday be regathered and experience their final restoration. All of this is documented fact, people. Everyone knows Jesus died on the cross. Everyone knows Jesus walked this earth. Everyone knows he was incredibly brilliant, performed miracles. Everyone knows the prophetic nature, and everyone knows with a brain the statistical analysis of being able to just predict 8 of the life events in Jesus' life that Jesus predicted hundreds of. But if you were to just break it down to a mere 8 of the things that Jesus predicted that came true, the likelihood a man like you and me could do that. It's the same probability that if I was blindfolded, dropped by a helicopter into the state of Texas, filled 3 foot deep with silver coins, one of them with a red X marked on it, somewhere in the state of Texas, maybe by Rogan's house, maybe by the wall, maybe up where it snows, maybe by the oil. Texas is huge, 3 foot deep. There's one coin with a red X on it. The probability of you finding that coin, blindfolded, dropped by a helicopter, is the same probability you could perform 8 prophetic predictions that Jesus had hundreds of. And people, nah, he wasn't God. Nah, he wasn't God. Yeah, they believe the earth is flat too, bro. Jesus would die on behalf of the nation. Because of his death, the nation would not be ever destroyed, but will someday be regathered and experience their final restoration. Caiaphas meant it one way, but God fulfilled it in another, which allows us to draw a parallel to what Joseph said to his brothers. Ye meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Genesis 50, verse 20. Everything meant for evil, God can turn into good. You just have to put your faith and trust in God. From that day forth, the Sanhedrin took counsel that they might put him to death, put Jesus to death. They officially rejected the first sign of Jonah, the resurrection of Lazarus. Multitudes present. Jesus praying to God, let them see that this sign is from you, that I am the Messiah. Only time he did that. They officially rejected the first sign, the resurrection of Lazarus. As a result of their decision to kill him, Yeshua left Judea for the last time. The next time he returned to Judea would be for the purpose of dying on the cross. So what do we learn today, folks? We learned that they tried to blame Russian interference on Jesus. They tried to say that the Russians downloaded into Jesus all these miracles and that he had to go because he was demon possessed. I'm making up the Russian hoax, but you get where I'm getting at with this, you guys. They come up with whatever fluffy crap they can come up with because they have an ulterior motive. They have a different agenda they have to satisfy. And Jesus ain't fitting the bill, bro. He is a thorn in their side. The best thing to do is kill that excellence. It's the fear of excellence that makes people cheat in competition. It's the fear of excellence on why Cain killed Abel. Cain couldn't compete with Abel. Abel was the loved, chosen brother. Not that Cain sucked, it's just Abel was the chosen one. So Cain killed Abel. He couldn't compete with him, so he killed him. The devil went after God's greatest creation, which was mankind in the garden. The devil couldn't compete for the love of God the way we are loved by God. So Satan tried to kill us. That's where the fall comes into play. People don't understand this. Jesus is so excellent. People have been coming at him forever. They can't compete with him, so they kill him to take over because Jesus is in control. God allows this to allow us, the free will, the people who want to decide for themselves. God allows us to have free will so we can choose to be on his team or not. How many people do you want to force to your birthday party? How many people you come, you birthday present now? That's not love. That's not relationship. That's not who we are. You want to come to my birthday party. You want to sacrifice your time, your money, your effort, whatever it is to provide me a gift or at least your presence, your physical presence, right? So God is giving us that choice. He could have made us the salmon. The salmon don't I'm not swimming upstream. Nah, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to stay out here and just build my own little colony. Nah, dog, every salmon. Okay, time to go upstream to spawn. We could have been robots. He didn't make us robots. He gave us free will. Free will comes with the fall. You have to try to struggle through the dark to find God because he's going to be knocking on your God-sized hole in your heart that you may not understand this, but everyone's got a God-sized hole in their heart, whether they're in the Amazon in some weird tribe that we can't relate to, or whether they're in New York City, which is another weird tribe that we almost can't relate to. But my point is this: God has a God-sized hole in everyone's heart, and he created you. So I may not be able to relate to an Amazonian person. I may be able to communicate to them, but I didn't create them. God did. So God knows how to talk to them. God knows how to sit them under a big tree and get their attention. He might be able to hide our keys or give us a flat tire to get in our way to talk to us, have somebody die, have somebody live, whatever he does to bring us to our knees. But he can do that with other people, other tribes, other communicative skills. So as we look at the ant colony, and they're all kind of simple, you think the ant colony looking at us, assuming what we're doing? No, he don't do that. No, he ain't going to do that today. No, watch. I bet you he's going to do this today. The ant colony don't know nothing about our heart, our desires, about why we do the things we do. Man, I'll bet you he's going to build a house right here because he's going to love it with his kids. The ants aren't sitting there watching us dig up dirt, talking about the great life we're going to be living. They're just doing their ant stuff. They can't comprehend what we're doing. So for people to think they can comprehend God, oh, I know what God's doing. I know better. For people to actually think they know this stuff, it's fascinating to me. You can't just pin God into a little corner like we know. As the ant can pin us down and say that they know for us. The hierarchy in the animal kingdom, you guys, we are only so smart, and we trump everything in the animal kingdom. Nobody runs like we do. Nobody builds like we do. So God is that much better than us, greater, infinite, outside of time, outside of everything we understand for sin and degradation and how we physically die. God is beyond all that stuff. God created us. He speaks to us. And eventually he stops. Eventually, put your light out because he's just tired of bugging you. It's your choice to respond to God calling on you in your life. And you can try to fill your God-sized hole with money, drugs, spouses, information, education, experience, anything that feels good, anything that feels bad, whatever floats your boat. But nothing's ever going to satisfy that insatiable appetite, because only God is big enough to fill a God-sized hole. These are facts in history, bro. Joe Rogan's Jamie could easily fact check this stuff and doesn't, because it don't make no money. We can't just give power to Jesus and then all of a sudden be Joe Rogan. People are like, oh, Joe Rogan, you explained it so beautifully. I just now am complete. You're not complete without Jesus. You're not going to heaven without Jesus. The Buddhist monk who does nothing wrong still goes to hell, because he too was given chances to accept Jesus. And he too decided in all of his choices in life, he wanted to be a Buddhist monk. No works get you into heaven. So I don't care how great you want to be. I don't care how great of a humanitarian, because you're a humanistic person. That doesn't get you into heaven. Only Jesus does. I'm glad that you're living that life. That's awesome. But doesn't do anything for eternity. But hold you back, really. You've got to give up everything to Jesus and let him decide for you how you should live your life, by praying that to him, by giving him that control, by giving him those reins. Maybe Joe Rogan wouldn't have the people he has on his show or talk about the things he does, or maybe he would rebuke some of the people if Jesus was in his life. And maybe that wouldn't sell so much. Maybe that wouldn't sell so well. Maybe that wouldn't garner so many views. Maybe that wouldn't garner so many sponsors. So don't think for a second that money is in a huge wedge between people and God. But really, it's not money. It's your ego. And discipline comes with those two things. You got to understand discipline with money to be given money and have it be biblical in your life. And you have to be disciplined with your ego in order to be able to cut yourself out to take up your cross. Maturity is not chronological. Maturity is something you develop. Challenges are the good things because challenge is what matures you. Challenge is what provides you the maturity to understand, is the juice worth the squeeze? If it wasn't for challenge, what would you have? So you have to take on the challenge of, is this stuff right? Because it is. And when you accept that and chip away at your ego going, okay, I submit my life to Christ, it will change. It will get better. There's a peace that comes with it because with Jesus, his yoke is light. All the heavy burden. Listen to what he says in the Bible. Read the Bible. Get into a small group of people who understand the Bible better than you. Surround yourself with people who love God, who are more mature in their relationship than you. And you will grow in Christ. And it's an amazing thing. And then you're a part of the team. But you're not done there. There's a difference between salvation and discipleship. And that's a whole nother conversation. But this is bedrock fact, folks, about Lazarus being raised from the dead on the 4th day. Bedrock fact about the pieces to it. To deny this? You know, Matthew McConaughey is an amazing actor. And I love his heart. Oh my goodness, he speaks on the most beautiful things. He's quite brilliant. He doesn't believe in the burning bush. If you don't believe in the burning bush, you don't believe in the Bible. If you take one piece out of the Bible, nope. It's like cutting one link out of the suspension bridge. You can't do that. The Bible supports itself because everything is true. You can't just take bits and pieces of the Bible and call yourself a believer. So Matthew McConaughey is not a believer in Jesus, is not going to heaven until he gets over his ego, until he gets over himself. And whether he wants to publicly portray it or publicly deny it, that's his choice. And what happens thereafter, that's God in your life. But you have to make that choice. No one's exempt from it. There's no one who just gets a pass because they didn't know. Everyone has a chance. That's a God-sized soul in your heart. I've said enough. Please read this book after you read the Bible. Dr. Arnold Fruchtenbaum, Yeshua, Life of the Messiah. And this is the abridged version. Please.